Hello everyone and welcome to another episode of Unscripted and Unchained RPG Review. I am Game Master Bloodworth, and as you can see by the graphics, today's video is going to be a continuation of my Fallout RPG coverage. Today I'm going to be taking a look at Chapter 1, the core rules, and this is Episode 2 in the series. So I'm not quite sure how many videos are going to actually be with each chapter. I'm going to try to cover them, one chapter per video, but sometimes the content might be voluminous enough that it requires more than one. So this is kind of a test of the chapter layout, and we'll see how far we actually get through chapter 1. So without further ado, I'm going to jump right into taking a look at the core rules of Chapter 1. So here we have the core rules, and tabletop role-playing. It says when you play a tabletop role-playing game, I'm not going to spend any time with this or the Game Master section and what the roles are of players and Game Masters. I'm just going to go right to the actual mechanics of the game. Skill tests. A skill test is the method of resolving an action you want your character to attempt. You roll some dice, and that result tells you whether you succeeded, failed, or complicated the situation. When a Game Master asks you to attempt a task, they're asking you to check your character's attributes, roll a pool of 2 to 5 20-sided dice, also called d20s, presented as X d20, when X is the number of d20s you're rolling, and you get more successes than the Game Master needs for you to pass the test, all right? Rolling the dice, choosing an attribute plus the skill. The Game Master chooses which attribute and skill from your character sheet are appropriate for your test. Add together the attribute and the skill chosen. This is your target number. For each d20, you can suggest which attribute plus skill might apply, but the GM has the final say. Your target number is the number each d20 must roll equal to or under to generate one success. Setting difficulty. The Game Master sets the difficulty for the test, normally between 1 and 5. The difficulty is the number of successes you must roll to generate with your d20s to pass. Roll the dice pool. Assemble your dice pool. You start with 2 d20s. So this is based on a 2d20 system. So your typical roll is going to have at least 2 d20. But you can buy up to 3 more d20s by spending action points. After you've added an extra die from the spending action points, roll the entire dice pool, checking for success. Each d20 that rolls equal to or less than your target number score 1 success. Any d20 that results in a 1 is a critical success and is worth 2 successes. If the skill you're using is a tag skill, then you score a critical success for each die which rolls equal to or less than your skill rating. Each d20 that rolls a 20 generates a complication. Check your success against the difficulty. The difficulty basically doesn't make the roll harder, it makes the number of successes you need higher. All right, so a difficulty of 1 requires just 1 success. A difficulty of 2 requires 2, all the way up to needing 5 successes for an extremely difficult task. Getting the result, the Game Master describes the outcome, and if the test was successful, you can spend action points to improve the result. After that, the GM introduces any complications. All right, so I'm going to give you an example here. I'm going to switch views and come here. So I'm going to take a look at this character sheet. This is a character sheet that came with the starter set, and this is Marvin, Mr. Handy is his origin, and I'm looking here at he has tag skills of big guns, melee weapons, and speech. So he has a tag skill of a rank of 3 for melee weapons, and that is based on strength. And his strength is an 8 here. So combining those two up, he has an overall of an 11 or lower in order to achieve a success. So I'm going to roll 2d20 here, and let's see what he ends up with. So I will find 20-sided die here. I should have at least 2 of them. Let's get 2 different colored ones. All right, so I'm going to roll 2d20 here, and he rolled a 16, which is a failure, and he rolled a 9, which is a success. So if he were swinging a weapon at some creature, he made 1 success. All right. Now, I want to show you what happens when he makes more than 1 success. So, or hits below his tag. So I will try one more time and see if he can do that. And he rolled a 12 and an 18, which means he would have failed. Now, if he were going to, let's say he had some action points, he could roll up to 5 d20. So I'm going to add, he's going to spend 1 action point to, let's say it's a really important attack he's making. And so I'm going to roll 3 d20 this time. And let's see what he gets. He gets a 10, a 13, and an 18. So he only scored 1 success here. So not a very effective expenditure of an action point, getting only the 1 success. But if that were the 1 extra die that he got, that was the only one that was successful. So maybe it works out better for him. Now, you're going to notice that your starting characters here are not going to have a high probability of success with their skill checks. And that's fine because there's going to be a growth process. So let's get back to the actual system. So the target number is the attribute plus the skill, which I've already described. Success and difficulty I've also already described to you. So testing difficulty examples, I will go over some of these here. So a difficulty of 0 really means that you don't need any successes beyond just not rolling a natural 20. All right, and that's even if you decide as a game master whether or not to have the player roll at all, right? So gathering rumors around a settlement, searching a room in an abandoned building is a difficulty of 0. All right, shooting a target at close range, picking a simple lock is a difficulty of 1. All right, so and so on. A 5 is convincing an enemy to stand down, shooting a target at long range on a stormy night is an extremely difficult thing in order to do. Critical successes. Each critical success you roll generates 2 successes. If the skill you are using is one of your tag skills, then you'll score a critical success for any d20 that rolls equal to or less than your skill rating. For example, if your sneak skill is a 3 and it's your tag, then on a d20 roll, a 3 or lower is a critical success. Complications. When attempting a test, each d20 that rolls a 20 causes a complication, a new detail in the scene that makes things more difficult that comes into effect once the test has been resolved. A complication could introduce a new problem, like a gun jamming or breaking a lockpick, or it could make specific skill tests more difficult in the future, like insulting a merchant to charisma plus barter tests with him in the future are increased in difficulty by 1. Complications do not prevent you from succeeding, but they do introduce something new to the story that make things more difficult. Your dice roll, normally you roll 2 die, as I explained, and you can add to that number. Difficulty 0 tests, some tests may be difficulty 0, or your character's perks or gear may reduce the test to 0. If a test is difficulty 0, you don't need to roll. Your action is automatically successful as I described. The GM, your GM's discretion, you can still choose to roll a die against a difficulty of 0 because 0 successes are required. Every success becomes an action point, but you can still suffer complications by rolling a 20, right? So you can still generate action points even if if you choose to roll with a difficulty 0 test. And considering that, I would probably recommend it. But again, that's only if the GM decides to give you that opportunity to generate additional action points. Opposed tests. Sometimes you'll face a situation that are not difficult because of the task itself, but because of an opposing force trying to prevent your success. In these cases, you and the opposing player, normally the GM, will both roll a dice pool and compare the results to see who wins. When another character opposes you in a test, their player rolls are d20 dice pools after buying any extra d20s, and the number of successes they generate becomes the difficulty of your test. When you attempt your test with your opponent's number of successes as your difficulty, if you equal or beat your opponent's number of successes, you win the opposed test, and any extra successes become action points. If you do not generate enough success to meet the difficulty, you fail, and your opponents could generate action points. So this is more in line with like a PvP, certainly, or if you are directly like wrestling, let's say, with an NPC, and both are going to roll those actions and what the takedown is going to be or whatnot. Action points in opposed tests. In an opposed test, the opposing character spends AP first and then rolls. The active character then may spend AP to add dice to their pool if they wish, and then rolls. If 2 player characters are making an opposed test, then both players must generate AP for the GM in order to buy additional d20s. The group pool is for team players. All right, so they can't pull from the group pool. They can only pull from their own personal pool of d20s. When you succeed in an opposed test, you generate action points by comparing your result to the opponent's when you are rolling against an established difficulty. Any excess successes generates AP as normal. When you are the one to roll first, establishing a difficulty for your opponent, you generate 1 AP for each success less than your number of successes. All right, so again, this sounds more complicated than it actually plays out. Um, as someone very familiar with the 2D20 system, especially from the Conan 2D20 game, the um, the rules, like I said, they read much more complicated than they are once you actually start sitting down and seeing how they work firsthand and actually utilizing the skills. These things just go really, really fast. The action in the 2D20 system is very, very fast paced. Um, in no way comparable to other D20 systems that have various charts that you have to look up to see what your successes are and whatnot. And you're going to see the same thing when we get into combat, especially with damage rolls and such as well. So it is much more streamlined than it reads. So that's just a bit of a disclaimer there. Assistance, and I'm kind of bouncing back and forth between assistance. You can Another player can have their character assist your character in doing certain things, and that will add additional d20s to the pool as well. Group tests, I just explained that. When your whole group attempts a single large activity, like sneaking through an area together or traveling through a hazardous area, you make a special kind of assisted test. This normally occurs when the difficulty is particularly high, requiring multiple participants to make short work of the task. Once the GM has set the difficulty, you must decide who is going to lead the test while the rest of the group assists. The leader of the group tests rolls a normal dice pool, 2d20 plus up to 3d20s they buy through action points. Everyone else rolls 1d20 using their own attribute plus skill. So long as the test leader achieved 1 success, every assisting adds and any successes they generate to the leader's score. If those accumulated successes equal or beat the difficulty, the group has passed the group test. All right, so that's an interesting rule. All right, the person who is designated as being the character rolling for the initial success, they must be successful in all of the assisting D20 rolls to add to that success. Now, any complications generated by anyone in the group rolling a 20 can be applied by the GM after resolving the test and its consequences. Complication range. Normally, any d20 that rolls a 20 generates a complication. However, some actions can be riskier instead of just more difficult. When tests are riskier, the GM can increase the complication range of the test, so you generate complication on more results than just a d20. For each increase in complication range, a complication is generated on the listed d20 result in the complication range table. So if you're trying something that is treacherous, let's say, then your complication is going to be generated on a 16 to 20 rather than just a 20. All right, so most tasks obviously are going to have a normal range. All right, that is a 1 and that is a normal, and that the complication generated only happens on a natural rolled 20. All right, and then as you go, if it's risky, it's going to be a 19 or 20, and so on and so forth. Success at a cost. At times, the GM may allow you to succeed at a cost when you fail a test. In these situations, you achieve whatever it was you were trying to accomplish with your skill test. You may not spend action points to improve the outcome, but in exchange, the GM causes you to suffer one or more complications as well. The GM should tell you how many complications you suffer, normally only one, and you can choose to simply fail if the cost is too high. Action points. When you're checking your successes, the task difficulty, each success you generate above the difficulty becomes an action point. For example, if the task is a difficulty 2 and you generate 3 successes, the extra success becomes 1 action point. Action points can be used to take additional actions, improve the outcome of a test, reduce the time it takes, learn more about the situation, or buy more d20s in future tests. You can spend action points to do the following. Buy d20s. That will cost you anywhere from 1 to 6 action points. All right, so 1 per extra die. Obtain information costs just 1 action point. Ask a single question about the current situation based on your test. The GM will answer truthfully, but the answer might not be complete. Reducing time costs 2 action points. From a success test, you can allow the test to take less time to complete when time is important. Spending 2 action points halves the amount of time a test takes to attempt. Taking an additional minor action will cost 1 action point. Taking a major action, additional major action, will take 2. Take 1 additional major action on your turn. Any test must attempt is increased by a difficulty by +1. You can only take 2 of the major actions in a single round. Add extra damage, anywhere from 1 to 3 AP. All right, so on a successful melee attack or thrown weapon attack, you can spend AP to add +1 damage, +1 damage die per AP spent, or up to a maximum of 3 damage die for 3 AP spent. It doesn't mean that you're going to automatically get extra damage of 1 to 3 points. It means that you're going to roll an extra damage die and have the potential of increasing that by a significant amount. So I'm going to show you a quick example of that. Let me get the... Let me get the damage die out here. So this is the damage die, all right? The 2 pips means 2 wound points. The 1 obviously means 1. And then you have the 2 blanks, which means nothing. And then you have effects, which come on the on these logos here. All right, and effects are also normally counting as 1 damage, right? So if I'm using a weapon that rolls 3 damage die normally, all right, but I want to add 1 AP, I'm going to add 1 of these die here. So my first roll, I actually rolled just 1 pip and then one effect, plus another pip. My extra damage, I rolled another one here. So I would have done 3 points of damage and one effect. Usually the effect coming from whatever the weapon assigns as an effect. So that is, that's a pretty decent hit. That's a pretty significant hit because most creatures are not going to have a whole lot of hit points. Like this character here is a player character, one that's really built for combat, with an 8 strength and, a 4 endurance and everything. They're going to have, pretty significant. He has a maximum of 8 hit points. So that one strike would have caused 3 hit points plus an effect. All right. So that's a pretty significant hit. And you can imagine if you're rolling up to like 4 damage die, you could do up to 8 points of damage if you get a really lucky roll. And that would be very, very significant. Most likely kill most creatures out there with just that single hit. So moving on, and I'll go more into detail with that in the in the combat. Bonus cost for d20s. So you normally roll 2d20, 1 AP for an extra, so on and so forth. It costs 6 AP to get up to 5 die rolls. So they are a little bit of an exponential growth. It costs an extra 2 or a total of 3 to roll 4 d20s. Saving action points. If you don't want to spend action points you generate immediately, you can save them for the group to use later. You can save up to a total of 6 AP as a group, and anyone can use those in the group pool. The Game Master's action point pool, just like the GM, has a pool of their own action points to spend on their NPC actions. They start each quest with 1 AP per player. There is no maximum to how many action points the GM can have in their pool. Buying dice without action points. If you don't have any action points to buy d20s, you may instead generate AP for the Game Master. For each AP you want to spend in this way, the GM adds 1 AP to their pool, which can be used later on their NPC actions and tests. You can only give the GM action points to buy d20s. You cannot do this for any other uses of AP. Luck. In addition to being one of your attributes, your luck also provides luck points that can be spent to shift the odds in your favor in a number of different ways. When you start each quest with a number of luck points equal to your luck attribute, you can spend luck points to do one of the following options, both during free-form play or on your turn in combat. Luck of the draw. You may spend a luck point to introduce a helpful fact or detail about the situation you're in, something that you'd have to be lucky to encounter. You could find just the right items or the right kind of ammo while you're scavenging. Find a key to a locked door or clue to a computer password. The Game Master may prompt you with an opportunity to do this or may suggest when it could happen, but they can veto your suggestion or ask you to spend multiple luck points to make it happen. Stacked deck. You may spend 1 point of luck before you attempt a skill test to use luck instead of the default attribute used for that test to determine your target number. Obviously, this only really has a benefit if your luck is higher than your attributes you're replacing it with. All right, so if we look here at this character sheet once again, we can see that his luck score is a 4. All right, and it's actually equal to his endurance, which is also a 4, but it is lower than all of the others. So this character here would never do that. That would be a waste of expending a luck point. Lucky timing. In a combat encounter at the start of any round or immediately after any other character or creature has acted, you may spend 1 luck point to interrupt the normal initiative order and take your turn for the first round immediately. This counts as your normal turn. It simply allows you to act earlier, and you cannot do it if you have already taken your turn this round. So basically, it lets you jump ahead of the initiative line. Misfortune. You may spend 1 or more luck points to re-roll dice in the dice pool you roll. You may re-roll 1d20 or up to 3 damage die by spending 1 luck point, and you can spend multiple luck points on a roll. Each die may only be rolled once. You cannot re-roll a die that has already been re-rolled, and you must accept the re-rolled result, even if it is worse than the original roll. Trinkets. Personal trinkets also allow your character to regain luck points. Once per quest, outside of combat, your character can spend a few moments looking at the trinket, thinking about what it means to them. When you do, you gain 1 luck point. See Personal Trinkets, page 80, for more details, and I'll get to that when we get to that point. Here is your luck options, which I've already explained each one of them going through. Regaining luck, you start the quest with a number of luck points equal to your luck attribute. Once you spend a point, it cannot be used again until the Game Master refreshes them when you reach a milestone in your quest, or you can start a new quest. When they are refreshed, you get all your luck points back, no matter how many you spent. You cannot have any more luck points than your luck attribute. And next up is combat. So there we have the basic rules of the system. And again, I know that it reads and sounds much more complicated than it actually plays. All right, you could trust me on that. It really is a simple system when you're sitting down and playing it for a very short period of time. And when I say very short period of time, within a half an hour, you will get right into the whole flow of doing your skill checks and, when do I apply my luck rolls, when do I spend action points, when do I do this or that, when do I contribute to the pool, and it really becomes a very, very smooth process. So I'm really looking forward to running this game. I think that players will have a great time with it. And much like the Conan 2D20 system, it really will allow you to focus on a real action based cinematic of whether it be combat or some kind of action that the players are taking. And when I say action, I don't mean just doing something, but something that is very action oriented, like a chase or, or an escape, or like I said, combat and everything. It gives it a much more cinematic feel to it, because you will be able to generate some, pretty impressive feats. I don't want to say amazing or astronomical, but you will be able to generate quite a bit of successes as you're going on, even with the lower starting skill level that you have as a first level character. There are ways to still generate those successes through action points and through luck. Excuse me. So I'm going to wrap this one up here. I hope you enjoyed this video. If you have questions or comments, leave them in the comments section. If you're already running Fallout, I really welcome your comments in the comments section. Point out anything where I misstated it or misinterpreted it. That's perfectly fine, and I really do welcome any critiques along those lines. And this is my first read through, so bear that in mind as well. And if you're understanding it the same way that I am, that's I can attribute to the game system itself as clearly as it is written out. And I think that looking at a character sheet as I was doing while you're going through these systems really will help you pick up how the system is actually working as well, even before you start playing live at a table or on a virtual tabletop or whatnot. So again, thanks for joining, and I look forward to seeing you on a gaming screen or at a gaming table at a convention sometime soon. You'll have a great rest of your day, and be on the lookout for some more videos today. I'm trying to get caught up. I just got back from vacation. I am now struggling with a cold of some sort, but nothing more serious than that. And sunburn on my arms, which that's why I'm rubbing them so much. But I have a little cough, and hopefully it doesn't turn into much more than that. I'm testing to make sure. This is my second day of testing negative, so I'm good with that. Little shot of rum to help the throat. And as always, thanks for joining. Have a great day. And my backup picture is gone again. There it goes.